Bitch, listen up. Now, for today's topic, I'm gonna have to ask one of y'all to close the door because there may be some little childrens walking by down the hallway. And the topic of conversation is adults only. Hi, everybody. Okay, so welcome to Girl, Get Your Act Together. I'm gonna just be so excited about this episode for you all, and I hope you're gonna be ready to listen. Today's topic is about black men, just the stats and your standards. There's a reason why you're single. All right. Now, first, I'm going to introduce you to some statistics that you need to hear. The U.S. Census Bureau came out. You know, they do the census every 10 years. So the U.S. Census Bureau came out for the 2021 survey saying that the black male population. Now, by the black men, I'm talking about black men who know that they're just black. They're not black Latino. They're not mixed up with nothing else. They're just black. They identify as all the way black men. For these particular men, 48%, there are 20 million black people that identify themselves as black men in the United States. Get it? 20 million black males in the United States that identify as black men only. Of that, 48% of the black alone population is what they make up. 52% is black female. Nationwide, there are 93 black men with full-time jobs for every 100 black women with full-time jobs. Get that? Although 50% of black men have never been married, which is down 2 points since 2018, 50% of all men are currently married. So if you got 50% of black men have never been married, all right? There's a reason why. Okay, I'm going to get into the reason in a minute. Now, when black men marry white women at twice the rate, they marry them twice the rate as that black women. I messed that all up. Black men marry white women at twice the rate that black women marry white men. In 2021, only 15% of married black men were married to non-black women, which is an unchanged number from 2017. But it's up 11% from 2010. So you see, 11% more black men are marrying white women. And it's up 8% more since 2000. About 8% of married black men were married to white women in 2021, and 4% were married to Hispanic women. Now, I gave you those stats because I needed you to hear me. Women, if you know that there are 20 million black men on earth in the United States, 20 million, then there are 20 million chances for you to get a husband. 20 million. Now, let's just say if half of those black men are saying of the 20 million, I just don't want to get married ever, then you've still got 10 million to choose from. And let's just say if 500 of those men say, I only want a Hispanic woman, well, then you got 9.5 million. And if you got 500,000 that say that they want to marry a white woman, well, then you got 9 million still. You still have 9 million black men in America that are fit to be tied to you. So let's just talk about the importance of marrying or staying single and your standards. I've made some observations, and I hope that you can bear with me for this. I'm going to use my lawyer brain on you. I made some observations over the last 20 years of doing divorces and seeing the reasons why people decide to work it out instead of doing that final act of proving up your divorce, or they decide to go to Splitsville. There are several factors that matter. Number one, finances. Number two, childbearing and rearing. And number three, religious differences. And number four, you just married a hoe that just didn't want to be celibate or stay with you when you're not giving him no ass. I'm saying celibate because if you're the kind of woman that hasn't had sex with your husband for a couple of years, you're basically celibate, and no husband signs up to be celibate, so then he's probably going to cheat. So in some instances, the people are forcing them to be into cheating situations. But let me just give you a little bit of advice. Now, I have made some observations. I've seen women that I've witnessed from afar that I don't even know that have been able to get married, then get divorced, and then get remarried within like 1 or 2 years later and seem to go off into happy land after getting married to the new person. They may even pop out some more children. And some of them had children with the first guy, or maybe they didn't have children with the first guy and they decided to just pop out some babies with this new guy. So sometimes there's a reason why people stay married and there's a reason why people get divorced. But if you're a person that has gotten divorced, I'm talking to you today about your standards. Now, if you're a divorcee, number one, that can be considered strike one. Sometimes people don't want to marry somebody who's already been married before. When I had not been married, I didn't want to marry anybody who'd already been married before. So that means I'm like, okay, that means you got to strike against you if you've already had a wife before. And number two, I used to say you got to strike against you if you got some kids already because I didn't have any. Number three, if you were shorter than me, I wasn't going to marry you. You didn't make as much money or as much money as I made or more than me, I wasn't going to marry you. If you were the kind of person that didn't have the same religious beliefs as mine, I wasn't going to marry you. If you didn't think the same way about rearing children, having children, how many children we wanted to have, I wasn't going to marry you. So if you work out all of those issues when you first meet somebody, when you're doing your coupling and your cuffing, I'm trying to tell you this because we're approaching on the holiday season. All right. And women are in search of a man or somebody to cuff up with, somebody to couple up with, to go to some of these galas with. I told you I was going to tell you what you're doing wrong. The women are having these conversations with each other, saying, you know what? There's just nobody out there. But I just broke it down to you that there are 9 million black men who identify as black out there if you want to marry a black man. If you're trying to marry a white guy, I can't really help you out with that. But let me tell you about conversations that you need to be having with some of these black men. All right. Now, I've always been a stickler for the phrase, conversation rules the nation, right? It doesn't really matter how pretty you are, although sometimes it does with certain men. It doesn't matter how thin you are, but again, sometimes it does with certain men. So what you have to do is you have to do a self-assessment. If you're a divorcee, I'm talking to you. Remember, look at yourself in the mirror. Maybe when you got married the first time around, you were 20 or 25 or 26 or 27 or 20-something. Either way, you're twinkling at 20s, in your 20s. Now, if you got married in your 20s, you had a couple of kids, or you didn't have any kids, and then you got divorced at 40 or 45 or maybe even 50, or if you're having a great divorce and you're getting divorced at retirement, I'm talking to you. If you were 10 when you were in your 20s, do some math. If you're a 10 in your 20s, can you still be a 10 in your 40s and 50s? Well, let's just see. Exactly what do I mean by 10? Well, Nyanza, in my mind, I'm talking to you, Nyanza, a 10 I would mean in your 40s or 50s would be, I have good credit. That's number one. Number two, I'm independent. I have my own money. Number three, my body's in shape. Number four, my kids are maintained and they're not terrorists. The baby daddy's paying his child support like he should. And even when he's not, I don't bitch and complain about it because I have my own money. Because remember, I'm independent and I have good credit. So then what else? Oh, I'm social. Well, that's good. I have a good head on my shoulders. I'm not a crackhead. I don't have any bad habits. I'm not an alcoholic. I try to do what's right. I'm a philanthropist. I do those things. So I might be like, okay, maybe in age, I'm not a 10 compared to what other people think. Or you could say to some of those young men out there, they may think that a 51-year-old woman is still a 10 at 51, even though they may be 25, okay? Just look at Kris Jenner and her boyfriend, the brother. He thinks she's a 10. She's about 60. So maybe at 60, you can be a 10. She's independent. She's good looking. She's got her stuff together. Her kids are well maintained and they're not terrorists. It looks like she's got her body together. She got a good head on her shoulders. And Kris is a philanthropist. So she might be a 10 to her boyfriend. Now, if you do your self-assessment, and you're looking at yourself and you're thinking, well, you know what? I got a divorce and this is what happens. Typically after divorce, if you're walking away and there was a financial disparity that was rarely large, very large, and then one person walks out of the relationship and they're not able to maintain their same standard of living that they're accustomed to, well, that takes 1 point off because you don't have the baller money that you used to have when you were married. So now that you're out there, you don't have the money because maybe you decided to be a stay-at-home housewife because you were so cute. You figured you didn't have to work. All you want to do is work out on the treadmill all day. Well, now you're getting a divorce. So now that you don't have any money and the C support, the child support is not enough to take care of you and your kids so that you can eat and live well and at least go to the mall on Christmas. Now you're down to an 8. Well, now that you're a little bit depressed, you don't have as much money, you're eating fast food a little bit more, so you picked up a little bit of weight. So now you're kind of chubby. Now you're down to a 7. Now that you've gotten chubby, your attitude's bad because you're unhappy and you're staying in the house all the time. So you got the stank face and you're bitching and complaining all the time. And every time somebody sees you coming, you got the mean mug, the resting bitch face. Well, now you're a 6 and you haven't even been to a bar to meet anybody. So you're a 6 at 40, 45, 50, or 60 because of extenuating circumstances that have affected your mental capacity to view yourself in the right way. Did you see how it was a trickle down? If you have a good divorce, by good divorce, I mean you get away with something. You get some money bag out of it. Or you're your better self. Or you got rid of a dude that was beating your butt. Or you got rid of a woman that was cheating on you with every Tom, Dick, and Harry that she could find. Or you got rid of a woman that was constantly calling you a loser, saying you ain't about nothing, saying that your job wasn't good enough, talking about you're not a good daddy to the kids, you're not a just blah, 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 blah. If you are constantly got the bitching and complaining, you may just be running your man off so he can join one of the 9 million single men. So think about it like this. Do your self-assessment as a newly divorced person or as a would-be divorced person. Assess exactly what your divorced number is, not what the number is that you had when you were getting married the first time around when your booty was still tight and your boobs were real. You know, before you had the babies, when your stomach was still taut. Now, my stomach is still taut. I don't know how. I think it's because I was doing crunches for too long while I was pregnant, but I'm just saying. For those of you who don't have a tight stomach because you may have had a couple of surgeries, a couple of mommy makeovers that got botched, well, then you're not the same 10. You need to be able to perfectly assess who you are and what you bring to the table post-divorce. Are you bringing misery, depression, unhappiness? Are you bringing sadness? Are you bringing a brand new big butt because you've been eating too many Twinkies? Are you bringing depression? Are you bringing Debbie Downer? Are you bringing, I don't know what to do for my career because I never had to work for the last 15 years? If you're bringing, I don't have a career. Are you bringing, I never got my degree. I never got my associates. I never got my cosmetology license. I never did go and finish my CDL. I never did do this. If you have a lot of unfinished business and you end up getting a divorce, and then now you're out there with your unfinished business because you didn't take care of your business while you were married. If you had taken care of your business while you were married, then if you got a divorce, you were not going to be as disaffected by the divorce. Okay? So if you had a good divorce looks like this. Oh, well, looks like it didn't work out like I thought it was. Well, we're just going to go ahead and part ways. I don't mind getting the standard child support and the standard spousal maintenance because you know what? I have a job. I have a great career. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a teacher. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a zoologist. I work at the museum. Either way, I have benefits. Or I was in the military. If you're in the military, you got the best benefits in the world. Until you actually need to go to the VA. That's the only thing I got to say. But if you do an assessment and they say, okay, I'm ready to get a divorce. All my life is together. And now I know that I'm not depressed for my divorce, although I'm a little bit sad that things didn't work out, but I'm ready to be my new self, my better self out there for the next man that I meet as a divorced person. Now, here's what's special about you as a divorced person. You've already been around the merry-go-round once or twice, all right? You already know what works in a marriage and what doesn't work in a marriage. Cheating doesn't work in a marriage. Beating somebody up doesn't work in a marriage. Berating somebody doesn't work in a marriage. Having a bad attitude and being a Debbie Downer doesn't work in a marriage. Not cooking. Not knowing how to cook. That doesn't work in a marriage. And I'm not just saying that women need to know how to cook, but bitch, you need to know how to feed your kids. Okay? And DoorDash is not a meal plan. That is a financial downfall. Let me tell you, you don't know how to manage your money? Do DoorDash every day. You'll be broke and then you won't have nothing to manage. If you know that you're getting a divorce soon, or you have a feeling that somebody's about to walk out on you or leave you, or you're giving them reason to want to leave your ass because you keep on harassing the hell out of them about dumb stuff, well, then you need to listen up. You are going to have to adjust your standards to your current state of affairs, all right? If your credit sucks, then you're a 5 starting out. You're starting out as a 5. Because what every person after a divorce is concerned about is how will my finances be affected in my new relationship? If a man is paying child support regularly like he's supposed to his ex-wife, and he's doing that auto pay out of the bank account. He's not bitching and complaining. He's paying what he's supposed to pay. He probably has his credit straight too. He probably has a good job and benefits, which means that kind of guy that's out there in the single streets, he's looking for a woman who's stable. Excuse me. He's looking for a woman who's got her money together. He don't want you coming up there buying a whole bunch of stuff at the Galleria. He doesn't need a new woman that's trying to act like his ex-wife did, spending up all the money, not saving anything, bitching and complaining. He doesn't want that. He wants a woman the second time around. If it's a divorced man out there, he's looking for a 10. He's looking for a 10. Sometimes he's going to say, okay, if you see a guy out there in a May-December relationship, this is the first day of December. If you see a man out there in a May-December relationship and you're wondering, what is he doing with that monster? She looks terrible. She's not attractive. Her body is whack. She needs some implants. She needs some butt injection. And she needs some fillers. Why is he with her? He's so fine. He's got this great job, all these benefits. Dang. I mean, look at him. What's he doing with her? Well, let me tell you what he's doing with her. Number one, if you're talking like that, you probably have a resting bitch face because you're always complaining. You're being a hater from the sideline. You're wondering, how did she get that good man? Well, let me tell you how she got him. Number one, she was a good catch on paper and a good catch in reality. If you're a new divorcee, you need to turn yourself into a good catch. All right? Get your body together. Even though you know it's not about your looks, if your credit is bad, your body better be banging. Do you understand? If you're not hitting on 800, 850, 750, 775, 795, if you cannot go out there and get something with no money down, then you better be working out a lot. Everything that you have that you consider a plus, whatever that you have that you consider a minus, is the time where you need to be like, okay, my minuses are kind of like equaling my pluses. So if I have 5 pluses and 5 minuses, I'm kind of like at a 5. So if I want to raise my status up to like a 7 or an 8 so I can meet a guy who's like at least an 8.5 or a 9, then I got to get my credit. If my credit's whack, I got to get my body right. If my body ain't right, I got to have a great job and great credit. You understand, there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off. Example, a woman gets a divorce. Woman A, we're going to call her Annie. Woman B gets a divorce. We're going to call her Betty. Annie gets a divorce. She says, oh, I don't want to get remarried. She already had a good job. Her body was all right. It was never really that great, but her body was all right. She had nice children. She had already had this divorce from this guy who was cheating on her or whatever. And so she divorced him. She says, I'm having such a great time out here being fly and single, baby. It's too many dudes out here. Do you see all these brothers up in here looking at me? I like this. No, I don't want to tie myself down to anybody. I love being out here being single. I like going clubbing. I love being able to go out and get my number to go. Okay. Well, that's what Annie's doing. All right. Then we have Betty. Betty, she gets divorced. She's like, okay, well, you know what? She had a great divorce too. Her kids are straight. The guy pays the child support like he's supposed to. Her body's still together. But during the divorce, she's like, you know what? I don't really want to go out to the clubs right now. I need to get my mental faculties together. I need to get my head right to just decide what new person I'm going to be. Now, some people, when they get divorced, Annie, she went out there and decided to buy a whole bunch of brand new thongs, a whole bunch of showing everything, ass, titties out, all that out, going to the club looking like she's trying to compete with the 17-year-olds and the 21-year-olds, looking like she got a whole divorce mommy makeover. Now she's got a big old line across her abdomen where you can see that it was semi-botched, but she's still thinking that she's looking good. She did all that work done, did all that, and now she's at the club. That's Annie. Betty decided to read some books. Betty decided, you know what, let me read some self-help books. Let me go ahead and change my diet. Let me cut out some of this fatty foods and these carbs. Let me cut out some sugar. Let me think about working on my physical body so that my mental body can be in alignment. If I can get everything in alignment, if I can get my mental health, my spiritual health, and my physical health in alignment, then maybe I'll start going out with my friends to the brunches and going out and hanging out with them at the bars. But only when I get my mind right. See, Annie jumped right out the fire and into the frying pan when she jumped into the single land. Started acting like a straight up hoe. I don't want no man. I like having 10 or 15 different men in my cell phone. See, there's a dude calling me right now. Yeah, baby, you can come over. Or I'm coming over there. So what happens is the newly divorced woman turns into the new hoe of the city. Yeah, that's Annie, the new hoe. Talk about, I don't want to settle down. I'm doing like my ex-husband did. He was sowing his wild oats while he was married. So I'm sowing mine now. I don't care what he's doing. And all the while, Annie is thinking that she's killing it in these streets. And what does her ex-husband do? Go out there, maintains like, you know what? I don't think I was right to my last wife, and I'm a new man now. I'm not going to cheat like I did. You know what? She was a good woman. I turned her out and turned her into bad. We could have had a happy marriage, and now I'm on the C support. You know what? I'm going to do some mental changes. So he starts going to Barnes & Noble, doing self-help books, doing self-help videos, getting his mind right, changing his diet, starts working out, starts being more of a man's man. So I'll be like, you know what? I don't need to be a womanizer to be a good man. I don't have to have every woman, and I don't have to peacock. So while Annie is out there being the new American hoe, her ex-husband is out there being the new American gentleman. And now we got Betty over here trying to create herself into a new life, trying to be a better person before she jumps out there into the fryer from the frying pan. And what happens? While she's doing her self-help makeover, Betty's out there and it's like, you know what? Now I'm ready to go out. And then what happens? Annie's ex-husband goes out there and says, you know what? I think I've got my life together. I know that I had some things that I did wrong with my last marriage, and I'm not even ashamed to admit that I was not a great husband to my ex-wife, to the next woman that I meet, because I want to be an honest person, and I want to make sure that I do everything to make sure the marriage survives, because I definitely want to get married again. Betty says, you know what, to her girlfriends, you know what? I'm going to go out there to brunch. And you know what? I definitely want to get married again. I know that there are some things that I did in the marriage that weren't great. And I know that I'm going to try to do better the next time. And I'm going to be honest with my take on how I was bad in the relationship, what I did to cause, even though my ex-husband did cheat on me, there are some things that I did that were wrong, that that probably just broke down the marriage. So when I go out with my girlfriends, I'm going to have an open mind. And I'm not going to be concerned too much about whether or not the guy's been married before, because I've been married before. I'm not going to be too concerned about whether or not he has kids, because I have my own kids. And you know what? So long as he's stable, kind, he takes care of his children that he had with the ex-wife, I'm okay. So long as he's going to try to look at a new lease on marriage, I'm okay with that. I'm open and I'm receptive to new possibilities. My skin is clear because I stopped eating toxic foods. I've been walking and running. I have a new attitude, and my new attitude is showing through in my smile. And every time I go out, I smile. So what happens? Betty goes out for brunch on Sunday and happens to run into Annie's ex-husband at Sunday Fun Day. And they strike up a nice conversation at the bar. He buys Betty a drink. And later on, they have a second drink. And then after that, he's like, well, I'd like to take you out next week if that's okay. And what does Betty say? Of course that's okay. And when her girlfriend say to Betty that next week, do you want to go out to brunch? She says, no, I have a date. Next thing you know, Betty says, I met a guy. And the ex-husband tells his friends, I met a girl. Her name is Betty. And what's Annie saying to her girlfriends? Hey, are we going out to brunch this week? It's Sunday Fun Day. Annie's friends tell her, oh, girl, no. We all met somebody. Well, Annie is like, well, what you mean you met somebody? We need to go out. What Annie failed to realize is that she's only going out because she's still upset about the ex-husband. She wants to get something off of her chest to prove that she still got it. When she starts stacking up a whole bunch of dudes on her phone, a whole bunch of direct messages, a whole bunch of going out, dressing like hoes, posting Instagram thought videos, wearing new thongs and stuff, wearing everything that shows every orifice that she got, that's only temporary. That's meant to put a Band-Aid on an amputation of her emotions. So while Annie's out there, now she's going out to the restaurants by herself, going to Sunday Fun Day, going to kick it by herself, because her other friends have gotten off the merry-go-round. Her friends in the merry-go-round are now off of it, and now they're out there making relationships, fruitful, positive relationships with one of these 9 million black men in America. And she's thinking, now I'm out here. Well, you know what? I'm still not ready to settle down. And next thing you know, fast forward 9 months. 9 months down the line, it's Christmas. And all of a sudden, all of the people have to decide Who gets the kids this Christmas? Mom gets them on even number years. Dad gets them on odd years. Okay, Christmas 2023. Who's going to get the kids? Well, it looks like in an odd year, Dad has the kids. So what's Annie doing? Girl, I'm about to kick it all through the Christmas holidays. Oh, yeah, we about to kick it because I don't have my kids. Well, and my baby daddy coming to pick up, my ex-husband coming to pick up the kids right now. Well, he rolls up, coming to pick up the kids, and he's in a chipper mood. It doesn't look like he's upset about having the kids' possession that weekend. It's like, what do you have to smile about, ex-husband? And what does he say? Oh, well, I just wanted to say, I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and I met somebody, and we're going to be doing a joint Christmas with me and my new girlfriend, Betty. Betty, and what happens? Annie goes into a tailspin because Betty is the one that ex-husband just met because Betty has her mind right. Because Betty did divorce and newly single the right way and not the wrong way. Betty didn't lower her standards. She adjusted her standards to fit her new life. What did the ex-husband do? He didn't lower his standards to get with Betty. He adjusted his standards. You need to do some self-reflection out there. The single life ain't what it's cracked up to be, number one. Stability is in twos. Even in the Bible, it says, a pair does the work better together. You need to find a mate. If you want to find a life partner to share your experiences with, you need to find one. But before you can be good with a life partner, you need to determine what standard you're living in. Because now I'm going to flip back to Annie. When Annie was thinking about who she's going to be with, she did a different kind of self-assessment. So let's cut to Annie. Annie going out all the time. Her bedroom door is a revolving door. Every time her baby daddy got the kids on the first, third, and fifth weekend, she turns into the freak of the week, okay? So she cannot wait to just spread her sauciness across the whole city that she's living in. She's taking Instagram thought pictures. She's posting a whole bunch of booty pictures. Then you'll see on Facebook where she's in a relationship. And then, okay, she's in a relationship. Then 6 months later, it's a new dude that she's in a relationship. And then 5 months after that, she's not in a relationship. And then another month after that, it's complicated. And then you notice that you got different sets of pictures. Let me tell you something about a married woman that becomes newly single. The world is your oyster. However, you're not the oyster for everybody in the world. You get it? Everybody's not going to be your cup of tea, and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. What you have to know is that you cannot become morally bankrupt and turn yourself into new hoe. Okay? Do not all of a sudden think that you can be the freak of the week just because you got a divorce and you need to catch up on the DI that you've been missing for the last 15 years. It's not what it's about. And also you will just give yourself a reputation, and it takes years and years and years to build up your reputation to where you have it. And as a married woman, you have the advantage of never being called a hoe. Because you're not a hoe. You're with the same man. You got betrothed. But once you become single, what you don't want is to be the new Annie hoe across the city. Yes, because what you do as a newly divorced woman, when you jump your butt into the single girl's world, you're back in college. When you're back in the single girl's world, you're back in college. You're back to competing. Can you compete? Can you compete intellectually? And for this last few minutes, I'm going to talk to you about your conversations. Because some of you that may not have your body all the way together, some of you that may have wack credit, some of you with wack jobs, no benefits, because you didn't do what you're supposed to, because you were probably, a lot of you out there, you just didn't think that you would ever get divorced. So you don't know what to say when you're out there in the dating game. Let me give you some tips. Listen up. If you're meeting somebody at a bar, there's a few things that you need to touch on. Be plain. You should get your 15-second spiel about exactly what you want to come out of your mouth the first when you meet somebody. When you first say, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? I'm fine. See, if you reply back with a hi, how are you? When a guy says, hey, how are you? Don't say, oh, I'm fine. Wouldn't the proper response be, hi, how are you? If you don't say anything back, that's not a conversation. If you don't say anything back, that lets him know that you don't care about how he's doing. There may not be okay, I'm not talking to her anymore. Fix that. If a man opens the door for you when you're walking out of it, whether he's 12 years old or 72 years old, say thank you so kindly. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Kindness. If you normally have a resting bitch face when you go outside, practice smiling all the time till your cheeks hurt. Like this. If you're in the radio, you can't see me, but I'm smiling. I'm smiling like I'm at a minstrel show. Keep a smile on your face, because over time, that smile will become your usual face, and the smile will turn your somberness into happiness. All right? Number 3, quit bitching and complaining about everything. Actually, bitching and complaining, that's going to be 3 and 4. Quit bitching about everything. Everything does not have to be complained about. When somebody says, hey, how's your day going? They don't really want to know how your day is going. If you really want to tell somebody how your day is going, tell it to your mom or your daddy or your last living relative. They want to know how it's actually, they want to hear about the Karens at the office. They want to hear about all the drama. But a guy that's just meeting, hey, how's your day going? Oh, it's going great. Better now. That's what I would say. Better now with a smile. Better now that you're here. Oh, you always want to brighten someone else's day. When you meet someone, figure out a way, how can I brighten this person's day? How can I brighten this social interaction that I'm having with this person of the opposite sex? What can I say to make them smile? Has he said something to make me smile? If they're making you smile, reciprocity matters. You have to reciprocate the energy. You have to replicate the smile. You have to be in the headspace where you're open to possibilities. It's like opening up a new book. You should basically be a new book. When you're a new book, you should make them want to read and turn every page. Every conversation, every word out of your mouth should be a cliffhanger. If you're watching Oprah's old episodes when she had her talk show, it's called a talk show for a reason. It's a conversation. When the conversation is pleasant, people want to continue it. And the way to continue on a conversation is to know a lot of things. When I said earlier that you don't have to be the prettiest, you don't have to be the best looking, the most Fitbit body, the hot body of the goddesses. You don't have to have brand new implants up to your throat that look fake anyway. You don't have to have big booty implants, butt injections, all that stuff. You may need a little Botox like I need, but that stuff doesn't matter. You will see a good-looking gentleman walking by a woman that you don't feel like is good-looking enough to be with him, and then you don't realize that her conversation is ruling the nation between the two of them. You don't understand. He is dying for the pillow talk every night. They may be staying up till 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning knowing good and well they got to get them kids up at 7 because the conversation on the pillow talk is so good that he is entranced with what his woman has to say. If your man likes to listen to what you have to say, if you have something that's intelligent, intriguing, insightful, then maybe you need to discuss that. Maybe instead of you always constantly talk about the negative, maybe you need to talk about some positives. If you're constantly in a good mood, then that good mood transcends into the person that you're talking to. If you're having a conversation with a man and you're at a brunch with your friends and you're looking like stank face a little bit or looking like you think that you're all that and that you don't need any conversation, then you're not going to be very receptive to a man that's going to come up and talk to you. So the men are not going to come. You get more bees with honey. So when you talk sweetly and you talk contently and you talk like, yeah, I'm interested in your day. How is your day? And also, please, women, and I'm talking to the women because I have a vagina that God gave me. People like to talk about different conversations. Please be abreast of world events. I could probably take your man just by conversation alone. I'm just saying, if you're the kind of woman that's very well versed in current events, what's going around in the world, what's going around with, if you know stuff, then somebody's going to want to know you better. If you don't know stuff, nobody's going to want to know you because you don't have anything to offer. If all you can offer is your body, well, if you can put a dime in the meter and get a prostitute to give you some, then you're not offering anything that a prostitute can offer. You have to have something that's more to offer. Just like when I talk about these girls dressing out there with all their bodies showing and everything, think that's what they have to offer. Maybe that's all they have to offer because they don't think that they have anything to discuss with the man that would be worth discussing. So the reason why I have a 2-hour talk show is because I got a lot to offer. I'm intelligent. By all intents and purposes, I'm intelligent. And people like intelligent conversation. When I have intelligent conversations with my family, they like to be like, oh, you have a girl. Yeah, because all I do is read. If you don't feel like you have anything to talk about, why don't you go ahead and listen to some of my book recommendations I'm going to give you, okay? Now, if you have a piece of paper, if you have your phone out, please grab it. Type it into your notes section if you have an iPhone. I'm going to give you a couple of reads that might be interesting topics of conversations that you can have with if you meet somebody else. You don't have to be meeting a man. You can be meeting a woman. If you're a guy that's out there that wants to listen to these books. Now, if you want to have intriguing conversations, then the 48 Laws of Power. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert E. Greene. That's Greene, Greene. If you want to know about intellectual stimulation, if you want to know some of the one or two books that all people should know if you consider yourself an academician. I'm not going to give you that one right now. The second book you need to get is a book about money. You know, you need to read anything about finances and the wealth factors, Black Money in America. You can read all of those. You can read any book by W.B. Du Bois, but specifically, if you want to know about how people are thinking, you can read, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a Jew that was in one of the concentration camps, and I don't think he was in Auschwitz. He was in a neighboring camp, but he wrote about his experiences. That is Viktor Frankl, Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He gives you all of his thoughts. He was a psychiatrist that was locked up in the concentration camp and was able to write a book about, you always see those videos about what people do in those states of fit when you know that you're about to get executed by the Nazi Germans. So you need to read certain books, and there's another book that you need to read. I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to upset all of you because I need for you to see my book list. So I'm going to go and enlighten you with my library. The Psychology of Money is a book that you need to read. That's going to help you get your finances together. That's by Morgan Housel. Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's going to help you get your mind right. Atomic Habits, how do you get up every day and get yourself going when you need to get your mind right? When I told you that if you had a bad divorce, you're sitting up at home eating Twinkies, you're not working out, your whole life is going to crap, you're getting fat, and you're not able to get yourself out there to meet new people. Atomic Habits. Like I said, banned from the Bible. If you just want to talk about religious things, if you want to be a religious intellectual, there's a book called Banned from the Bible about the books that did not make it into the Bible so that you can hear about the other books. That's by Joseph Lumpkin. There's another book called The Wealth Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. Yeah. And there's another book called The Daily Laws, also by Robert Greene, Greene. And if you want to read stuff about Black finances, there's a book called The Black Tax by Sean D. Rochester. And that'll let you know everything about how the Black tax is paid by Black Americans. And if you want to read about parenting, you can read about How to Raise an Adult by Julie Lythcott-Holmes. I know I'm going through this list very quickly, but I only got a few minutes. And there's another book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I really like Outliers. Malcolm Gladwell, I've read all of his books. Now, there's another book called The Speed of Trust, if you're in business, by Stephen Covey. And, that's a really good book if you're like a CEO, CFO, or if you want to have some conversations with some people that are in corporate America. I gave you my short list of books that I've read at least 10 times each. And if you're really feeling woke, there's a book called White Fragility by Dr. Robin DiAngelo and Michael Eric Dyson if you want to do woke reading. Now, if you're just a regular person and you want to read about some history, you can read The 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones. It was a New York Times bestseller. And you can also read, if you want to read something about intellectual, religious writings, you can read The Divine Revelation of Hell. I read that when I was in my undergraduate days. It's by Mary Baxter. Now, I've given you some books that take you from raising kids, religion, money, human nature, the wealth gap. I've taken you to psychology. So all of those books, just read them. You can download them on Audible, or you can go get the paper versions, or you can go to Half Price Bookstore if you're working on a budget and buy the $2 copy, or you can read it on your Kindle. You need to get your intellectual lives more stimulated by reading. Reading will help you. Reading, let me tell you the importance of reading. Reading is what I do all day long. All day long. I don't listen to the radio. I'm not watching TV. The only time I watch any TV is when I have to watch the reality shows to give you guys the top tea. Anytime you're in my car, you're listening to a book. Anytime you're around me, if I'm walking, if I'm running, if I'm doing anything where I have any downtime, even when I'm working, I'm listening to my books. When you have intellectual stimulation, it gives you more confidence. When you go out in the world, make sure that you're having plentiful conversations that matter. Conversations where you can pour your intellect into somebody else and somebody can stop looking at your pretty face and start thinking about what the words are behind those beautiful eyes you got blinking back and forth to them. Men and women out there want to be intellectually stimulated by the opposite sex. They want somebody who's going to pour into them that can make them better. When somebody has a conversation with you, however brief it is, after that conversation, they should leave the conversation with you feeling better about themselves. When somebody speaks to you, you should be able to pour into them. Well, let me tell you something I heard about. Let me tell you something that I read. Did you hear about this? Did you know about that? When I gave you the list of the books that you need to read, those are books that I read that I enjoyed. You may not like those books, but those topic areas are topics that maybe you can find stimulating enough to where when you read those books and when you become stimulated, you can form your own opinions and then you can do your own book search. You would be shocked to know that from the billionaire to the homeless man, it's easy to have a conversation with anybody when you're well-read. Be well-read. Don't spend your money getting your body makeover trying to find your next man. Spend your money at the library. Spend your money at the bookstore. Spend your money on Audible. Spend your money downloading books. Spend your money doing self-help guides to make yourself physically better, emotionally better, intellectually stimulated, spiritually better. There are a whole lot of things that you need to fix about yourself. And first, it starts what? At the top with your head. Stimulate your mind so you can get your mind right to have a new lease on life when you are newly divorced, so you can meet somebody else and you can live your best life. I want you to read. Now, do you need me to do the fast list? 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene. 1619 Project, Nicole Hannah-Jones. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. I threw that extra in there. White Fragility by Dr. Robin DiAngelo and Michael Eric Dyson. The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. That's Greene with an E. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. The Daily Laws by Robert Greene. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. That's Frankl. Atomic Habits by James Clear. And The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm wrapping up this episode of Girl, Get Your Act Together. I told you in the last episode that I was going to tell you what to say when you're out there. What I need you to do, part one, is go read some books so that you can know how to talk to somebody to stimulate them so much that they want to stimulate you right back. All right, everybody. See you next time. For those of you women out there, I've been in this situation. Don't be embarrassed. It could happen to you.